So you probably clicked on this video expecting me to show you some type of new technical routine where you play a variety of mind-numbing patterns along to a metronome until you're so bored of your guitar, you never want to pick it up again. But that is not why we're here. What I want to share with you is 3 exercises that actually restructure the way you approach playing guitar altogether by targeting 3 key areas: creativity, connectivity, and feel. Exercise number 1 is layering guitar parts, and this is where we're going to be working on our creativity. Now, this exercise can look wildly different depending on where your skills are at, but the basic idea is to combine your knowledge of theory with your knowledge of the fretboard. And I would say at a bare minimum, you're going to need to know how chord progressions work, and you're going to need to know at least one position of the pentatonic or major scale. If this isn't something you know already, I'll have a lesson linked under reference videos in the description for you. So you might be wondering, with just one guitar in your hands, how are you going to be layering guitar parts? And I'm going to show you 2 different ways. One is much more accessible, and then the other is more effective, I would say. So the first way to do this is the more accessible way, and this is with a looper pedal. And the actual looper pedal that you use doesn't matter. They all basically do the same thing. We're only going to be using the most basic function anyway. And what we're going to be doing is starting with a chord progression in any key and building on top of that. So let me grab my headphones and I'll show you how this works. So we'll start by laying down a chord progression as our foundation. I'm going to play this chord progression in the key of E major, and I'm going to play an A major to a C sharp minor to a B major. So we've got our foundation down, which is the chord progression. And now, using my knowledge of the fretboard, I'm going to start playing some things over it. So position 1 of the minor pentatonic scale and what I know around that position, I can use all that stuff. Listen to all these notes, right? They all sound great, right? So over top of this, I'm just gonna fool around until I find something I kinda like. It can be super simple. If you're not advanced with the scale, that's fine. It can just be something like this. I like that. So we got that layered in there as well. Sounds pretty cool. Now maybe I'll try and add something that's a little bit melodic, but I'm gonna fool around a bit and find something I like first. Not finding anything I like that much, but let's just lay something down anyway here. That's fine. And maybe let's try adding something else as well. It's getting a little bit full, but that's okay. We'll try this. Might be too busy, so maybe I'm gonna leave that out. Maybe we can layer up the chords a little bit more, get something else in there that sounds cool. Sounds kind of cool. To it for a second. I want to improvise over it so bad, but we're just going to kind of leave it as is. Okay, I think we'll stop there. The other method for doing this that I think is a little bit more effective is to use a basic home recording setup. So let's head over to the computer and I'll explain over there. So the great thing about doing this with a recording setup is that you can go back and listen to your ideas as many times as you need to. Everything is saved, stored, and you're not gonna lose it. With a looper pedal, obviously everything is more so on the fly, and some pedals can do it, but most pedals are not gonna store everything you ever come up with. So it allows you to be a little bit more creative and intentional, I would say. So here you can see this is a fully developed track that came from one of these simple layered ideas. So let's isolate right here this little guitar part. You might have heard this in a track. I've used it in videos before. So that was my base idea, and then what I was able to do is fiddle around with as many things as I wanted until I came up with ideas that I thought fit well over top. So let's keep this playing, and I'll just kind of add the ideas in as we're going. Listen to this. So you can hear, I've been able to build out like this whole guitar idea, an entire song basically, from using this whole exercise. I layer drums and bass on top of that, and then I end up with this. Obviously, that's beyond the scope of this lesson and this exercise to layer that stuff over top, but it just kind of shows you where you can go with it. As another example, we've got another section here, these dark orange guitars. And again, we can look at our bass chord progression as where we start from. So let's just take a chunk of these rhythm guitars and we'll solo them out and listen to those. Pretty cool. And we added some stuff in. And that's the type of thing that you want to work on building, because all I'm using there, while it sounds big and complicated, are bar chords, some other cool voicings of chords that are based on caged. So that's all I'm using there. And then I'm incorporating the basic pentatonic or major minor scale shape. So you could do all of this with just that one position and some basic chords. And the great thing about using the recording setup is just that you have the freedom to trial and error different things and find what fits good, and then lower the volumes and spread things out so that it sounds all good together. Exercise number 2 is playing along to brand new songs. And this is how we're going to be working on our connectivity. I like to think of this as the fun kind of ear training. And the main idea here is to put on a song that you either have never heard before, or at least that you've never learned before, and play along to it. Now, this probably sounds nearly impossible. If you've never learned the song, how are you supposed to play along to it? But there's actually a process that you can follow. The whole point of this exercise, if you imagine music as a language, is to learn how to use the language and actually interact or have conversations. So the actual process for doing this, and I'm going to show you an example in a second here, is first off to find the key of the song that you're going to be playing along to. From there, you want to identify the chords that you're playing over. Then you want to figure out the structure of the song. So intro, verse, chorus, any little interludes or bridges, and finally play along, improvise, and layer your own parts. The goal here is not to learn the song and actually play it like the original. What we're trying to do is create a connection between the music that we're hearing, our own ears, and our guitar. So I'm going to throw the headphones back on and show you an example. Okay, so I've only listened to the first few seconds of this song to make sure it was good for this video, so you're gonna see me stumble around and figure this all out on the fly. So the first part of the process is to figure out our key. There's a bunch of different ways to do this, but for me it's pretty quick. So I know I'm in the key of E. Now I'm kind of listening for the chords here. Pretty straightforward. And it's not okay, it's not alright, but I can't take it back. I just tried to feel something I only felt when we started drinking. Okay, cool, like a walk down thing. No, it isn't fair, 'cause I've been selfish and I wasn't there. Pretty straightforward. And now I can just kind of fool around a little bit. Cool. And again, now I'm gonna kind of flip-flop back and forth between rhythm, following the chords, and then just kind of coming up with my own stuff as I go through. So that's pretty much the gist of it. You're gonna wanna try to do this with as many songs as possible, and I'd highly recommend sticking to genres like pop, country, indie, where things are pretty straightforward, especially when you're first starting out. You're gonna figure those ones out pretty quickly. Exercise number 3, become the drummer. And this is where we're gonna work on our feel and rhythm. So I want you to take your fretting hand and place it over the strings so nothing's coming through. Everything we're gonna work on in this exercise is all with our strumming hand. And our goal is to be able to hit the strings but sound like a drum kit. And there are a few tools that we can use to make our muted strums sound a little bit more like a drum kit. First off, we can talk about velocity, so how hard you are hitting the strings, right? When you hit quite hard, softer, and really soft. And dynamically, that's gonna give you a lot to work with, right? All of those sound slightly different, a little bit more rhythmically interesting. And then we also can look at pitch. So like a kick drum and a snare, right? On our low strings, we've got more of a thumpy sound. And on our high strings, we get more of a snare-like sound. Now by combining velocity and our pitch here, we can kind of emulate a lot of the parts of a basic drum beat, right? What we're gonna do is we're gonna throw on a track. It can be any song you want to play along with, and your whole goal is to either follow the drum beat that you're hearing as best you can, or to kind of be the drummer yourself and be creative and come up with your own drum parts. So I'm gonna put the headphones back on and I'm gonna show you an example. So we're gonna use the same song here we used in the last exercise, and there's barely any drums in here at all, mostly just some kick drum and stuff. So that leaves us open to basically fill the space with whatever we want. So I'm gonna start off simple by just doing something like, and I can make it more interesting if I want. And I can even come up with more interesting parts if I want. I can keep it simple, but you can also just play around with things until you find something that you feel like works, right? Might be too busy for this song, right? Go back to something simple. There, now we got a kick drum to follow, right? Okay, as far as what's next, I'd recommend you watch my video on my own personal daily practice routine. If you want to check it out, I'm going to put a link up in the middle of the screen. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.